Welcome to IBBA InSights, providing expert advice on buying or selling small businesses. IBBA InSights is presented by the International Business Brokers Association, the world's largest nonprofit organization for those helping others sell or buy businesses. Now, here's your host, Chris Diglio.
Welcome to IBBA InSights. I'm your host, Chris Diglio. I'm happy to be able to talk with you today. A lot of people out there that own small businesses that are under the impression that when I reach retirement age, I'm just going to shut it down because who's going to buy a business? Who's going to buy my business? Who's going to step into my shoes? And they feel that way because they've been told or they read on the internet that most small businesses are not sellable. And that is a belief of some people. There are also other people of the belief that all businesses can be sellable. It just depends on the price and the terms and how large of a market there's going to be for a business like that. So which one is it? Are all businesses sellable? Are all businesses not sellable? We're going to find out today because I'm going to have a discussion with Mike Finger of Exit Oasis. And Mike is an expert on the subject. He has his opinion and his beliefs. I have my opinion and my beliefs. We're going to find out today if we're of a similar opinion or maybe we could find common ground. Mike, welcome to IBBA InSights.
Thank you, Chris. A pleasure to be here.
No, it's a pleasure to have you. I find this topic extremely interesting. I've been doing this for 25 years, and I've heard business owners throughout the years tell me, I'm just going to shut my business down because I don't think anyone's ever going to buy it. And then I've heard the other extreme where business owners think their company's worth 20 times what the market will really bear for it. And so it's for business owners that are listening and even business brokers. It's always an interesting topic when we talk about are small businesses sellable, what makes them maybe more attractive. So I know this is very meaningful to you. And if you don't mind sharing with the audience, why is it so meaningful and what started you on this course in life to really care and be passionate about the sellability of businesses?
Oh, thank you for the question. I'm passionate about this because I lived it. I had what I have since learned is an incredibly common journey in the sell a business space for small business owners. And what was that for me? That was I started a business in the mid-90s. I grew the business over a decade, got it to 50 full-time employees, reached a point of complete burnout, decided I was going to sell it, and got hit between the eyeballs with a 2x4 by broker after broker telling me, I'm sorry, we don't want this listing. I don't think I can sell this business. I was shocked. I was shocked because I thought I had done my homework as an owner ahead of time. And in retrospect, what that homework meant is that I read an article that said businesses like mine would sell for 1 to 2 times annual revenue. And so I thought, hey, I'm going to get this thing up to 5 million in revenue. And then even if I just get 1 times, that's enough runway for me to do what's next. And lo and behold, I realized that revenue had nothing to do with the value of a small business. And that came as quite a shock to me. And it started a journey for me of learning and figuring out what actually made a small business like mine, but a small business in general, attractive to a potential buyer.
If you don't mind me asking, you said you talked to broker after broker after broker, and they were turning down the opportunity to sell your business. What reasons were they giving you? Why didn't they want to attempt to sell your business? Or why did they think it wasn't sellable?
Not enough cash flow, too owner dependent, I got all the classics, Chris. I've got all of those elements that, and again, to be fair, I probably could have found a broker to take my listing, right? If I shopped hard, I could have found a broker to take my listing. And I think this is where you and I will maybe go back and forth a little bit. Hear brokers say fairly consistently, I can sell any business. And then there's a pause, and then they add, but the seller might not like the terms, right? It's that old joke of, I'll sell your business for $100 deferred over 10 years, right? Boom, I could sell any business. I think from a realistic perspective, most businesses, most small businesses in the marketplace as they exist are unsellable as it relates to a realistic offer that an owner would be willing to take. Tell me if you agree or disagree.
I don't know, because I need a little more understanding of that. So I'm of the belief that almost any business could be sold, but yeah, we'll determine the price and maybe the terms, and there are value drivers that'll drive something up, drive something down. So when you say you believe something might be unsellable, what exactly do you mean? That can't be sold at all, or is it just not to a seller's satisfaction?
Maybe a little bit of both, and maybe we take a step back and we start by defining small business, just very briefly. I look at the numbers, and here's the most recent numbers I see from the Small Business Administration. 33 million small businesses in the US. Of those businesses, 98% of them have less than 20 employees. 80% of them have no employees at all. They're a single person operation. If we're looking at that 80% to start with, I think it's fair to say that a high percentage of those small businesses are unsellable. Agree?
Why?
Disagree? Why?
Yeah, why? Because I don't know that I agree.
Okay, because I think in many cases, those businesses represent someone working for less than they would be paid if they went and worked that same job somewhere else. And so
Okay.
from a pragmatic perspective, why would I buy a job that will pay me less than a job I could get?
That's fair. And you'll have the people or the buyers that would say to you, I was just let go of my job that I was at for 15 years. I had no control over what happened. And if I own my own business, I have a better shot at being in control of my own destiny.
Okay. So what percentage of those buyers are out there, and of those sellers are going to find that kind of buyer? Again, I'm not here to discourage anyone from talking to a business broker. I'm actually quite the opposite. When I talk to owners in this space, I am a huge advocate for an owner to talk with a broker at least once a year. I
Sure.
love that conversation once a year because I think the education that the owner gets from that conversation pays off exponentially over time. So I'm a huge advocate for that conversation to take place. But pragmatically speaking, if you run the numbers in terms of the size of business and the actual sellability of businesses, a lot of those owners, if they're dealing with transparent brokers, are going to find unsellability.
So here's where we may agree, disagree, or cross paths on agreeing and disagreeing at the same time. I look at the marketplace, and I'll look at Biz Buy Sell. They put out statistics through the second quarter of this year, and every year, year after year since 2020, business sales have increased. The first two quarters of this year are up over the first two quarters of last year. I think it's over close to 3,000 or so. The average price of the sold business is somewhere near around $400,000, which is an all-time high in the last 7.5 years. So when we look at the numbers, clearly businesses are transacting. But then I could also tell you I was a member of the Business Brokers Association, the BBF in Florida for many years when I was working on Main Street transactions. And any given year, they'd have somewhere around 1,000 transactions. And probably the numbers were somewhere around the same, 300,000-400,000 average sales price. It might be a little higher than that some years, but you would see businesses transact. But you would also see something interesting within the association, that 80% of the businesses listed didn't sell. And so there's the question, Mike. Was it because the business wasn't sellable, or can the broker sometimes play a role in making the business not attractive in the marketplace?
Yes. The answer to that question is yes. I think both those things can be true. It's fairly common when I start working with the potential seller, we'll surf those listings, right? We'll see what's out there in your industry, what's comparable, what are they doing in terms of pricing and information and all of those. I absolutely think that's the case, that both the unsellability of the business is at issue, and potentially how the broker handles that listing is at issue. But let's take a step back for a second, because Chris, for me, the main follow-up to the question that we're wrestling with is, what serves a small business owner better? Is it a belief that they can sell their business anytime they decide to? Or is it a belief that their business needs to look and be a certain way if they're serious about being able to sell it when they're ready? I would argue that the second is far more beneficial for the seller, for the market, for the buyer, and for brokers. And so when I look at it from that perspective, I say those brokers that might be pitching, I can sell any business, or any business can be sold messaging, are actually doing a disservice to the market, because they are convincing small business owners that they can wait to address this topic. And I believe that most owners address this topic by waiting and then failing to sell.
But you have the fear of the unknown. You have the business owner that's working 50, 60, 70, 80 hours a week on their business. So you're right, they have a job, and although it's their job and they're in control of it, but they're also hopes of expanding and running and growing a business, employing other people, and doing all those things. But the one asset that's the biggest asset that they have, that's taking care of everything in life most of the time, their mortgage, their car payments, their family, their vacations, all of that, is the one thing. And the one thing that they're banking on one day is going to help them retire, is the one main area that they just don't focus on, because they're just unaware and they don't know, where do I start, or it's too late to start, I haven't even thought about it. And so right. I'm of the belief that whether you want to sell your business today or never want to sell it because you think you're going to turn it over to the next generation, or you want to sell in 10 years, your business should always be ready and in a position to hit the market, because sometimes life just happens and you may have to wind up selling when you don't want to. And if you're not prepared, you're going to take a big haircut if you're fortunate enough to even be able to sell it.
Chris, this is where we need the applause special effects to come into play, because I agree with everything you said 100. And let me try to say it a little bit back to you. Ownability is sellability. We can talk about prepping a business for sale, but what we're really doing at the same time is prepping a business to be fantastic to own for the next decade. Those two are the same thing. The problem is that we treat them like they're not as owners. We think that sellability is a place we get to when we're ready to sell, and that's simply not the case. I see so many owners, and this metamorphosis that takes place for an owner, I've seen it where they go, what do you mean I won't be able to sell my business? Okay, what needs to be different? What do I need to change? And they start changing those things, and they see not only the benefit of the sellability, but they see the benefit of a business that's easier to own, that's more profitable, right? All of these things and so that to me is part of the negative fallout of messaging that says that every business can be sold. I think that disserves the small business owner as a general rule.
See, and that's where I disagree, because I do believe most any business can be sold. Just depends on how much you're going to be able to get for it and what the market's going to bear. But if you have a motivated and reasonable seller that has realistic expectations of what the market will bear, I don't believe that there's a business that just is not sellable. Now, it could be the worst case scenario. It could be one owner, no employees, one very large customer.
And Chris, just to interrupt, let's recognize that's 80% of the market.
Right. So let's say they have one very large customer. So now one worker, because you're the owner, one very large customer. So volatile, right? Numbers are maybe on the downward spiral. They're not going up. We may look at that and be like, not a business I want to represent a market. But to say it's not sellable is not the case, because there may be a buyer that comes in and says, look, there's no way I'm going to pay you X amount of dollars for this business, because I could lose the account tomorrow and it's all gone. However, I may give you X amount of dollars down and do an earnout or pay you over time. Now, an owner's not going to want to hear that. They're going to think, why would I give my business away like that? You have two choices. You have three choices. Keep running your business the way you are, accept the terms that are on the table today, or clean it up and have better expectations of what you can get in the future. But sometimes people wait too long. They don't have the luxury of time. So they're forced with, at that point in time, can I take what the market will bear, or do I just shut it down? And I'm of the belief that anything you could get is better than just shutting it down. Now, will a lot of brokers represent companies like that? I think now a lot of brokers will shy away and not want to represent companies like that. One, because the price point might not be high enough. There might not be enough money to cover fees that are involved. And it might just not be at the level of what a broker wants to represent. But I still think it's saleable to the right person.
So I have to agree with you hypothetically, but I know and have seen those deals where an owner would have to bring money to the closing table to sell a business, right?
Yes.
And I guess I'm at heart, I'm a pragmatic guy. That just strikes me as such an let me ask you this, Chris. Do you think, my sense is that many brokers are uncomfortable with the concept of unsellability because they are afraid that will keep owners from having the conversation with the broker?
They are afraid. They don't think that they're attractive enough. They don't think that they're worthy enough to be in the marketplace. And now they're afraid that if they talk to somebody about it, that they're going to be embarrassed. They're somewhat ashamed of where they're at and what they're doing. But it doesn't mean that it's never too late to start. The worst time to start is when you absolutely are up against the wall and have to. But let me go back to something you said just a minute ago, because I have one of my mentors in the business, Frank Frazara. He helped a gentleman who was in a really bad situation. When boxing gyms were the fad, this guy went in and did a complete retrofit in a shopping center, $250,000 build out. This was going to be an investment for them while they were doing their day job, right? And realized he was bleeding himself dry, losing $25,000, $30,000 every month. And so how in the world is that sellable? Frank went in and he was able to help him, because you'd say, and the seller had to bring money to the closing table. You might say, how in the world did that benefit the seller? That $18,000 a month in rent he was paying, now the $200,000 plus a year or so, right around there, that they were paying in rent, now that wasn't his burden anymore. So just to get that off of his plate and to be able to sleep well at night and not have to worry about the cost of carrying that business and losing the money he was losing every month was a benefit for him to be able to sell, even though he brought approximately $20,000 to the closing table to be able to close. And that was to pay off some equipment and all that. But in the end, he was as happy as could be, because the burden of the debt that was bleeding him dry every month was such a weight lifted off his shoulders when Frank was able to help him. So my argument would be that might be one of the businesses you think, how in the world, or why would anyone want to buy it? And why would anyone want to sell it? But there's a case where it did help and it was a benefit to the owner.
No question. And again, I'm not suggesting that those situations don't exist. And it's one of the reasons why I consistently recommend to owners that they're having ongoing conversations with different business brokers. And I get in trouble with some of my business broker friends when I say that, because what I want that owner to do is reach out and talk to you this year, have a great conversation, get your opinion on sellability of the business, get your impression, and then next year, reach out to a different broker and have that same conversation. And do that 3 or 4 times, see who they get the best fit from, see who they have the most comfort with, and develop that relationship, but educate themselves. I tell them they should try to steal an education from a broker. And in my experience, most brokers are really comfortable with that concept because it results in ongoing conversations with business owners. I believe, and you alluded to this earlier, that the discomfort owners have with the conversation with business brokers is a huge disservice to the sellers. I think it really hurts business owners when but again, for me, it goes hand in hand. I feel like they compartmentalize this as something they can do later. And when you ask them why, they say, because I'm constantly getting calls from brokers that say, we have a buyer for your business. I'm constantly getting marketing material that says we can sell any business. And so for me, it's a little bit about turning that coin over and saying, listen, look at the odds. Look at the odds on sellability and ask yourself, are you giving attention to this topic the way you should be? And I think most owners have to answer that question. No, I'm not paying attention the way I should be.
I'm glad you brought a lot of that up just now, because I was talking to some people and we pitched what's coming up on the podcast next and who we're going to talk to. And someone said, you're going to talk to Mike Finger? He hates business brokers. He's against them. He tells everyone to stay away from them. I said, you're not talking to the same guy I've talked to, because in fact, I think it's quite the opposite. I think if you actually had a conversation with him, you'd find out that there was a lot of commonality. Now, what I always find at least exciting to me is if there are differing views and different points of views and different philosophies. I'm always one to let's talk about it and let's hear it out, because there are business brokers out there that will draw a hard line and say, look, unless a business meets these criterias, I'm not going to take it to market. And that's fine. That's their criteria. But then there are others. I talked to a very prominent person in the industry who runs a very large company. And his philosophy was, because I asked him one day, why would you take a listing like that? He said, I believe everyone deserves professional representation. He said, and if we can provide that, then we're happy to do so. And so sometimes our job as a business intermediary or business broker is doing a good job of setting those expectations and not lying. And I'm using that word, not lying to the business owner, promising them the world and then delivering much and then play the old game. It's not selling. We're not getting any activity. We should probably lower the price, lower the price, lower the price, lower the price. And then by the time the listing expires, maybe the price is where it should have been. Maybe it wasn't, but you've ruined the name of that business in the marketplace because it sat out there for a year, didn't sell. And it causes the business owner to really now think, one, that business broker, he was horrible because they didn't get the job done. They forget the fact that you told them it wasn't worth what you were asking for. And then they get into the quandary of, in their mind, they start thinking, maybe my business isn't sellable. Maybe I don't have a good business. And so as brokers, I think we do a disservice sometimes if we take any listing at any price and hope it sells. But that's the 20% of the businesses sell, 80% don't. But I think when we're dealing with other brokers that are part of professional associations like the IBBA and the state associations and invest in education and take the courses and can really truly become a trusted advisor and advise their clients that, hey, today might not be the right time to sell. Where do you need to go? What are you hoping to get? If you want to do that, you need to do this, 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 and that, and you'll become more attractive in the marketplace and may be able to meet your expectations. So that's what I'd like to touch on next, Mike. We talked about a lot of, is something sellable? Is it not sellable? But let's talk about the business owner that's watching the program right now or listening. What can they do to make their business more attractive? What is it from a buyer's view or a buyer's eye that they're looking at when they're looking at a business that might, one, get them attracted to it, and then also maybe push or maximize the value of that company?
Yeah, I have 3 hours of answers to give you on that question, so I have to filter through it.
Well, either you have to talk really fast or pick the top few.
Yeah, it's the journey that I went through over the last 5 or 6 years. After going through, I've owned 8 businesses. I sold 4. I failed twice. I worked as a broker for a year. I've been a buyer of businesses, a seller of businesses. And then I found myself getting to this place where I'm coaching small business owners who are interested in building a business that they can sell. And I kept whittling. I kept looking at all that information that was out there and kept whittling away and saying, okay, what's the core? To answer your question, what are the cores? And here's where I landed. 3 questions. Are your results desirable? If you're a small business owner and you want to be able to sell your business someday, you have to answer yes to that question. Are we being obtuse about it? No. If I, as a buyer, look at your business results, seller's discretionary earnings and the lifestyle created for the owner, Am I going to be attracted to it? If I'm not, your sellability ability dropped dramatically. If I am, if I can look and say, oh boy, that the cash there and a little freedom, I can still go to the kids' ball games and do that stuff. Are your results desirable? That's number one. Number two, can a buyer duplicate your results? Right? Is the business dependent on you? If it is, how do I replace you? If it's not, if you've got a team, if you've got systems, now I can get a firm answer to question number two. I can get a yes to that. Last but not least, can you document your results, right? It's a 3D view of your results: desirable, duplicatable, and documentable. If you can answer yes to those three questions as a small business owner, I would suggest to you that brokers will be thrilled to talk with you. Are there still going to be things to iron out? Of course, right? There's still going to be nuance and complications and all that stuff. But I suggest to you that most deals that don't happen, most businesses that don't sell because of one of those three basic things, not because of the complexities.
You said being able to document, and I harp on that all the time. I have this discussion with business owners, and I believe business owners are smart individuals most of the time, right? I'd like to think so. At least financially, they should be aware of the numbers. But then they sit in front of you and you're going through and they'll tell you, well, I'm making this, but I really make this. And they're all proud of the undocumented revenue or the money they were able to bury that you can't add back, right? That you just can't show. And it's $50,000. Yeah, I $50,000 I didn't pay tax on. I'm like, how much did that save you? $50,000. Let's just use 20% because it's easy math, right? 10 grand, right? Save 10 grand, $10,000. I said, wow. I said, you sold your business. That $50,000, if your business is selling right now for a 3 multiple, that's $150,000. So you saved 10 grand, but you lost a net loss to you of $140,000. Why would you do that? Why would you do that?
Chris, it's so ridiculous. I have sat across the table from owners and done that math with them and watch as the color drains from their faces as they realize that now what are their choices? Miss out on that 140 grand or work for another 3 years to resurrect the actual financial reality of their business. It's crazy. It's crazy. And again, that's why that documentability is so critical for a small business owner. Some of them, as you and I both know, they have issues with that because they're taking money under the table or doing that stuff. More often, it's that we don't pay enough attention to that side of things, right? We've just got sloppy records, or it's just not as clean as it should be. And again, to the ownability, sellability question, those are the same owners that struggle to make good decisions because they don't actually know how much they're making on this project or what this client's actually worth. And so it's clean that up a little bit, clear your dashboard so you can actually see how you're driving this business and what's going on with it. It's a win, 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 win right on down the line.
Today's IBBA Insights podcast is brought to you by sellyourway.org. If you're a small business owner, sellyourway.org was created just for you. We want to provide you with objective information and the support that you need to best prepare for the sale of your business. We know that you can get the best results with the guidance of an experienced business broker. We will educate you about the services they provide so that when it's time for you to sell, you can proceed with the confidence and peace of mind that you deserve. Visit sellyourway.org today.
The point is, guys, if you're a business owner out there and you're listening to this, you're watching this right now, start today. You might think, I'm never going to sell my business. Let me share a little story with you. And this is not to scare you, but this is reality. Had a long-term client of ours. Every year he'd come in and we'd update his financials because he wanted to sell sometime in the future. But for financial planning purposes, had a valuation done on the company, and every year it would be updated. Well, shows up at the office one day with all of his files and said, now's the time. I'm like, great. You hit your numbers. You're ready to go. No. I said, then why are you looking to sell? Went to the doctor. I have cancer. I'm terminally ill and I need to sell. and I have a price on, an offer on the business today of this. And I said, yeah, but we updated your valuation. Your company's worth probably 2 times that amount of money. He said, that's great, but I don't have the time. I said, look, let us make a phone call or two and see what we can do. So we got on the phone, made a couple of calls to people within the industry, and lo and behold, someone came in. They paid him not 2 times, but they paid him about 50% more of what he was going to accept. And the only reason he was able to do that was because he had good books and records. Everything was in order. He had everything in line that made it attractive to someone that felt like they could step in tomorrow and take over from. So now the best part of the story is we're going on now 12 years later, and his terminal cancer wound up not being terminal. He's still alive and is still happy, though, for the sale that he had on his business. But again, if you're out there, that you're just shortchanging yourself, and not just yourself, your family, your heirs, or whoever else is going to take over. I mean, that you work so hard on your business, to just leave money on the table it's inexcusable.
How many stories could we tell like that, right? How many stories could we tell? And it goes to the piece of advice I always go to whenever I'm asked, hey, what piece of advice would you? What I'd love to see is, I love to see sellers, I'd love to see owners take one lunch period a month and set a date in their calendar every month with their future self, is the way I label it. And what I encourage them to do is to take that half hour, take that 45 minutes, and spend time learning about this topic. Listen to a podcast, watch a video, read an article, have lunch with a broker, do something once a month that reinforces and educates yourself about this topic. No one advocates for this, Chris. There's no one in your business that's going to come and say, hey, Mike, you want to exit someday, we should really spend more. They're going to come and talk to you about how the copier's not working or the software problem. Everything's got an advocate in your business except this. It's got to be the owner sitting down and saying, this is of critical importance to my professional and financial future. I'm going to give it that much attention on an ongoing basis. Doesn't have to be massive, doesn't have to be hours a month. Let's spend a half hour a month. Let's listen to IBBA InSights. Let's do some other things, and let's start to build that knowledge base. Because again, that story you just told, you said it was their records that did it. I would suggest that's a big part of it. But the other part was they'd been having conversations with you on an ongoing basis, right?
Absolutely.
They knew who to call. They knew that relationship was there. They had a comfort level with that idea of selling before that diagnosis came in. That's what made it possible.
Yeah. And that it's not just me, it's other brokers that I know across the United States, around the world, that again, you tend to find those more at professional associations, because these are people that are spending money to go somewhere, to be somewhere, to learn. And I often found if someone's willing to invest in themselves, they're probably going to hold themselves up to maybe a higher standard than others. But this is where the accountability of the business broker comes in, how you could help your client. Yeah, you could be very narrow-sighted and say, I need to make money today. That company's not ready to sell today. Goodbye. Yeah. Or you could take the approach that this is my career. I'm a professional. I'm going to be doing this for a long time. Yes, I might not benefit financially today from this conversation, but if I give this person good advice and I guide them and I direct them, and whether I can help them or I point them in a direction of someone else that can help them, when it comes time to selling and they're more attractive to the marketplace, they're going to remember these conversations, because I'm building a relationship with them today. And they're going to call me and they're going to remember, hey, Mike took good care of me. Crest took good care of me. Frank took good care of me. Whoever, whatever your name is, you took good care of that client. They're going to remember it was you and call you back. And now all of a sudden you're sitting there one day and your phone rings, and it rings because, and it's, oh yeah, I remember talking to you a year ago. Oh, great. And they send you over the financials, and they've cleaned up. They're much better. They talk to you about their business, and they're no longer reliant on that one customer. They've added 4, 5, 6, 7 more clients. They've focused on employee growth and retention. And so now it's not just them. They have a another person or two that are on board. And so now all of a sudden you have this business that you looked at that was, I don't even want to know this person, to you're drooling and you say, yeah, I want to sell that. But
Right.
you know what? If you didn't treat them right to begin with, and they didn't trust what you had to say, and they didn't feel like you were looking out for their best interest, someone else is going to sell that. And you're going to look back and say, I can't believe I missed that opportunity.
It's a cultural question, truly, for me. I think a lot of business brokers, as they go through their career, have to figure out if they're hunters or farmers, right?
Yeah.
Because if they're just out there looking for the quick kill, to your point, they are going to miss the opportunity to plant seeds that over time turn into these remarkable phone calls, right? Oh, remember we talked 3 years ago and you gave me some advice, and oh, by the way, I've 10x the size of my business in the interim, and you were a decent guy when we talked. Can we talk again? Am I hunting or farming? I think realistically, a broker has to do some of both.
Sure.
Because it's hard to pay the rent if you don't hunt a little bit as a broker. But I don't know, that's bad rep, but it's also reality. I know brokers that are just unpleasant human beings that dismiss out of hand if you are not ready to sign with them today. And I know brokers that are wonderful human beings that care deeply about the owners that they interact with, whether that owner is going to put $1 million commission in their pocket or never sell their business. So I don't think we can whitewash. I think it's a choice a broker needs to make about how they want to engage those clientele.
Then you have the business owner. So now they're listening to what we're talking about. And now we're scaring them. Like, oh, but I need to sell today. I need to exit. I don't think I'm prepared. I have a problem. Maybe I just need to shut down, or maybe, all we can do if we do our job properly is advise the client of their options. No different than an attorney especially in business transactions could advise their clients of what's going to happen if you sign this contract or if you accept the terms. But then it becomes a business decision.
Right.
I could advise you that, look, I don't think your business is ready to sell. I don't think you're going to get maximum value. I think if you went to the market a year from now and you fix these things, it'd be worth $450,000. But today, I think it might only be worth $175,000. And this is why, and this is what you need to do. At that point, I've given them options. I'm not trying to force them in a direction one way or another, but I have had people that said, you know what? I hear what you're saying. I understand that, but I really need to sell today. So if that's what it's worth today, and you've done a great job of explaining why, that's what I'm going to have to do today, because I don't want to wait. I don't have to wait. I have enough money in the bank. So whatever the reason may be, we provide a lot of options. They ultimately have to make the final decision, but hopefully they're being given the right options and being told truthful information and not that pie in the sky. Because I do a lot of M&A work now, a lot of low and middle market work. And there are companies out there that I think all they do is they sell books, right? $50,000, and they're sold on the pipe dream of their company is going to sell for, a gabillion. Yeah, gabillion. That's a word, a gabillion dollars. Right? And someone says, yeah, I'll pay you $50,000 if you can get me a gabillion dollars, right? And now a year goes by, no one's looked at the business, and there's no activity. They haven't sold. And if that person truly needed to exit the business for whatever their reasons were, you've now done them a disservice because you've wasted a year of their time. So I'm a big believer in telling the truth, giving news. People said to me one time, what business are you in? I go, I'm in the news business. I'm like, I don't give good news. I don't give bad news. I just give the news. It's up for the individual to determine whether it's good or bad. And I try to stay very neutral because I want to give the individual accurate information that they can make a decision on. And Mike, in your case, you're dealing with these people that come to you and they say, how do I make my business more sellable? What do I have to do? I haven't started. I'm starting late. It's too late. So what advice, if I'm here today listening and I told you all these negatives about my business, should I just shut it down, or do I reach out to the broker? Do I reach out to an advisor like yourself? Is there hope for me?
Oh, the redeeming reality is that small business owners live on hope, right? That's what we do. That's what convinces us we can do it better than that other guy. That's what And always, always, I will always bet on hope. That owner has to be willing to reach out. That I'm sure it happens. I am not convinced that huddled shutdown happens very often. I'm sure it happens. And if anyone out there listening right now is in that place, shut off this podcast and pick up the phone call and talk to a broker. Maybe they're going to give you the news, and maybe that news is going to strike you as bad, but at least we know. And to all the owners that aren't at that place yet, do it anyways. Because I think what you and I can agree on unequivocally, Chris, is that all of these conversations that we talk about brokers having with sellers are better served if they happen 5 years earlier.
Yeah.
They're always better served if we get on this topic before we need to get on this topic, because now I can make small, nuanced changes in my business over time that create dramatic changes in the outcomes and the opportunity I have when it comes to exit. That to me, anything that I hear, anything that I read, that sniffs of that's going to make a business owner wait to engage this topic, it instantly goes in the no list for me, right? Because for me, the biggest problem that owners have with this, and I said this earlier, we wait and then we fail. We got to stop waiting. Part of that stopping is listening to podcasts like this. It's reading the articles. It's having a conversation with the broker. Just have that conversation and get a sense for what the process is. Learn some of the things that you and I know. Chris, how long does it take for the average business to sell, right? Whoa, that's an education point for an owner that can help them dramatically align their calendar to what they'd like to accomplish. Let's learn that before they have to sell the business. That, again, that's the drum that I will beat till the day I die. Because again, I lived that. I was shocked, surprised, and devastated when I discovered that the brokers wouldn't engage that business. 5 years later, after making changes, they did, and we sold that business successfully, and it was a freaking life do-over for me. And so helping owners wake up to the path that they can walk that gives that to them, man, that is so freaking rewarding.
I like to tell stories to clients because I think it gives good example and they can relate to it. I liken it to the person that wants to buy a house, but they have horrible credit. A year ago, they talk to you about it. They talk to their financial advisor. They talk to the mortgage broker, right? Mortgage broker, or they don't talk to anyone. They sit there and go, oh, I have bad credit. I'm never going to be able to buy a house. A year goes by. There's, oh, I got bad credit. I'm not going to ever be able to buy a house. Year after year after year goes by and nothing gets done. I often tell people, I say, okay, you recognize you can't buy a house today. You've got bad credit. But now you got to start today to fix your credit. So a year from now, you're going to be in a much better position. Your credit score is going to go up 30, 40, 50 points or wherever it's going to be. But if you do nothing about it, it's not going to change the circumstance or the results. Yep. You're digging your own hole. Kicking the can down the road is not an option. And so I've had people that I've worked with the same exact example about their credit in a house that 3 years later, they come back and thank me, friends, family members. Wow, I was able to I just bought my first house. And if I didn't talk to you 3 years ago and start to get back on track, and you didn't introduce me to that mortgage broker that told me what I needed to do to be able to buy a house, I'd still be sitting here sulking. So no different with the sale of the business. Call a broker. You can go to IBBA.org. You can see a list of the CBIs that are out there. They're the most giving people that are out there. There are people like Mike that are out there. You give them a call. They'll sit down. They'll consult with you. They'll talk with you. They'll help you create a plan to be able to get to where you ultimately want to be, which is being able to exit on top and being able to take care of yourself well beyond the day you walk out of the company. We have...
Chris, you're talking about the secret. The secret is intention in this whole thing. And it's not the intention to sell your business. It's the intention to create a business that you can sell. If you create that intention and you engage it, boy, how you do it, there's 100 different ways. There's all sorts of resources but it's got to start with that intention. That's it. That's it.
So here's what I think we can agree on. I think we can agree on that a business owner should be able to put themselves in a position where their business could be sellable at any given time. So they should reach out, if they haven't done so, and talk to somebody and start that relationship. Here's where we may or may not agree on. I'm of the belief, but if you're beyond that point and you're at a point where you have to do something today and you're listening and saying, I didn't do any of this and I don't think my business is ready to go to market, but I have to do something, still call that business broker, because I'm still of the belief something is better than nothing. And if they go to the market with realistic expectations, there'll be a market out there, maybe not a large market, but there'll be a market out there that could potentially bring a buyer for your business. Look, you could always shut your business down and walk away from it and get nothing. But if the hope is out there and you could get $50, $100, $150,000, why not at least explore that option? But you have to talk to someone that's going to be fair and honest and give you a realistic picture of what the market is, and not just tell you what they think you want to hear.
Chris, I think we disagree a little bit on that last point, except for the conclusion. The conclusion is always take action. The conclusion is always engage this topic. I would say as soon as possible. If it's too late, engage it anyways.
Yeah.
And let's, to me, again, this is all about encouraging sellers to wake up to the fact that they can change the outcome. They can create a business that they can sell when and if they decide to. Got to start now. Got to treat this as something that benefits you in the short term and the long term. I think we can 100% agree on that.
I think they're just helping themselves. If they do everything to build up their business, they're helping themselves. And if you're a business broker and you're doing everything you can to help them, you're going to help yourself in the long run. So I think the key takeaways is always going to be, if you're a business owner, there are people out there that can help you to make your business more sellable and maximize the value, or make it more attractive for quality brokers to want to take the market, to find quality buyers that are going to be happy to buy your business, to find SBA lenders that are happy to lend money on your business because it's attractive. And I think if you do that, you're helping yourself. And I don't like to say you're making the job of the broker easy, because the broker has a difficult job, even if everything lines up right. Still a difficult job to sell a business, keep confidentiality, make sure you keep your eye on the ball, your eye on running the business while it's being sold and sales not suffering. Still a very difficult job to sell a business, but you certainly could make the process easier and give yourself a much greater chance of getting it done.
100%. When you watch it work, when you see it happen, you see how an owner's life can change when they execute a real world sale. And I'm an advocate of real world sales. You and I could spend a lot of time talking about what I call the M&A porn that's out there. I sold my business in 30 minutes for $10 million on a Tuesday. You could do the same kind of stuff. Yeah. But the life-changing impact that I have seen in owners' lives from executing a sale, and I'm sure you've got stories that go on forever about what impact that can create for an owner. It's, again, for me personally, it was a life do-over. It was just this magical time of opportunity, and just, it's really good stuff. If you're an owner out there and you're considering this, you're thinking about it, set the fear aside for a little bit, set the anxiety aside for a little bit, and give yourself a chance to spend in this dream space a little bit. Have a conversation, read some stuff, open yourself up to the possibility that some really neat, good things can happen from engaging this topic.
There's a lot of really good professional representation out there, a lot of great advisors, people that could assist and can help you. And again, professional representation. And that's someone that's going to, if you go to court, you want to have a good lawyer, because if you represent yourself and you're going up against someone that has an attorney, they're more likely to win. You're doing your own books and records rather than having a reputable accounting firm, you're probably more likely to get audited than the other person, or you're not going to save yourself as much money as the accountant could potentially save you. Professional representation is the same thing. If you're looking at selling your business and understanding what is it worth today and how do I make it more attractive, better with a business broker, someone, or an advisor, someone that could tell you where you're at today, possibly help you today or help you in the future. So I've already told everyone that they go to IBBA.org and they could find a CBI in their area, Mike. But if someone's listening today and they're thinking about their company and is it saleable and what can we do to make it more saleable, what's the best way for them to get in contact with you, Mike?
You can find me at exitoasis.com. That's my website, but I'm most active on LinkedIn. That's where I'm putting the content out there every day and good conversations with small business owners. If you're interested in the topic, if you want to get more, that's the best place to hit me is LinkedIn.
All right, Mike. So for and we all have naysayers. The better job you do, it's amazing how many naysayers come out, but let them hear you say it. I don't hate business brokers.
I don't hate all business brokers, Chris.
Yeah, there's some I'm not too happy with. It's funny, or not so funny. In any profession, you have people that elevate your profession and make you proud to be part of what you do, and you have others that do such a disservice to it and give a black eye, but that you don't want to ever be associated with them. But I think we're on the same page. We're talking about good quality people
100%.
that can help you.
I know phenomenal business brokers. There are some people out there that I interact with on an almost daily basis. Quality, just wonderful people that in a second I refer owners to. So yeah, but all of that said, right, I'm not going to hesitate to tell those stories that make it look that are real, that can be cautionary tales, not just to owners, but also to brokers. And so it's, I think you captured it very well. Brokers are human beings. That means that they are imperfect, and we're going to give them the benefit of the doubt. To my mind, none of that impacts the advice that we agreed on, which is an owner is best served by having ongoing engagement and conversations with business brokers in their community.
At the end of the day, we had a nice discussion, a lot of nice back and forth. And I appreciate you coming on the show to share your views. You'll take the view that a good portion or a lot of businesses are not saleable. I'll take the approach that I think most businesses are saleable, but maybe not to the level of where somebody might be happy with it if they had to sell. But I think based on listening, business brokers and business owners hearing us talk about this today have a much better understanding of what they could do to help today and in long term to make their business more attractive and ultimately saleable. So again, Mike, I want to thank you for appearing today on IBBA InSights. And again, I really do appreciate your time today.
Genuinely my pleasure. Thank you, Chris.
I'm not going to lie. I enjoyed today's episode. I enjoyed the discussion. I enjoyed the banter. I enjoyed the back and forth with Mike on the topic of whether all businesses are saleable or all businesses are not saleable. I hope you as a listener, if you're a business owner, business professional, business broker, intermediary, or advisor, got some useful information out of this today. There are ways to make businesses more attractive and more saleable. But again, I think it was a healthy debate and discussion going back and forth. If you enjoyed today's episode and like to hear more episodes like this, you go to IBBA.org/insights and you can hear all the episodes we've done throughout the years. And click the follow button. You'll never have to miss another episode again. So again, thank you to Mike Finger for joining us today. I look forward to speaking with each and every one of you again on the next episode of IBBA InSights.